All right, welcome back everybody. Today we're going to be talking about SQA4, which is solving by square roots again. Now today there's not anything too new, but what's going to happen is we're going to sit there and give you a little bit harder versions of the problems. Now this is what I mean by that. I guess this is actually similar to the problems we were doing yesterday. So remember, our goal is always to get whatever is being squared alone so that we can take the square root of it. Now, in this situation, only x squared, or only x is being squared. The 9 is hooked onto it. So what we want to do is get rid of everything except for the x squared. So remember, in math, we always get rid of the part that's added or subtracted first. 91 take away 10 will be 81. And I'll be left with just 9x squared. Now I still want to get x squared alone, so I'm going to divide off the 9 on both sides. These two are going to go away. And that's going to leave me with x squared is equal to 9. Now this is the perfect spot to be. We have our term that's being squared all by itself. So just like we learned yesterday, you can undo squaring something by taking the square root of it. And of course we do it to both sides because we need it to stay balanced. So I'm going to get x equals, and then if I punch in the square root of 9 on my calculator, or even if I just think about it, I know that the square root of 9 is equal to 3. Now this is where we got to be a little careful. Remember, there's always two answers. So x equals 3 and x equals negative 3, right? You got to have the positive and the negative. Nice job. Let's take a look at the next problem. Here's a little bit tougher one. Now, in this situation, notice it's only the x that is being squared. So we want to get that part alone. To do that, negative 5 is hooked on there by multiplication, so we want to divide off by negative 5. So, doing that, I'm going to be left with x squared equals negative 500 divided by a negative 5 is positive 100. And now let's get x alone. Take the square root of both sides. These two cancel off, leaving you with just x. Now, the square root of 100 is 10, but don't forget about that second answer, 10 and negative 10. Nice job. Here's problem number 5. This is where we kind of get to the new stuff now. So if you look at problem number 5, notice how this whole thing is being squared right there. Now, once you get whatever is being squared alone, that is when you want to take the square root of both sides. So, taking the square root and taking the square root, these two pieces cancel each other off, and I'm going to be left with x plus 1. You're just left with whatever was inside. Remember, squaring and square rooting undo one another, so you're just left with whatever you started with on the inside, which was x plus 1. Now, on the other side, 81, the square root of 81 I know is 9. Now, this is where we got to be really careful, guys. 9, remember, was one of our answers, but when we did this, we always got two answers. So this is where we're actually going to break it into two separate problems. So x plus 1 equals 9, and x plus 1 equals negative 9. Right? You got to be careful and think about both of those situations. This is exactly where we were before. Remember, when we took the square root, we were left with whatever was inside, which in this case was x, and then we set up two equations. First equation, second equation. We're doing the same thing here. Whatever we were left with after we square rooted, sorry, I'm all over the place, which was x plus 1, and then we write two equations, equals positive 9, and here's the equals negative 9. The only difference is we're not done and solved. We still have a little bit more work. So to solve this first one, we need to take 1 away from everything. That's going to leave me with x equals 8. And that will be one of our answers. And then on the other side, we're going to take 1 away from everything to get x alone. These two cancel off. Negative 9, oh, I'm off the screen, take away 1 would be a negative 10, and that will be our final answer. right? So we get two answers, but now we got to be careful because they're not always just one's positive, one's negative. We got to be a little bit more careful. So here's problem number 7. Again, we're going to start by trying to get the part that's squared all by itself. So the 2 is hooked on there by multiplication, so we're going to unhook it using division. Divide by 2 and divide by 2. These two pieces are going to go away. And we're going to be left with x minus 2 squared. Now I'm going to put parentheses because the parentheses mean the whole thing's being squared. 32 divided by 2 is going to give us a positive 16. And now this is where we want to take the square root. So we're going to square root both sides and square root both sides. Now we know this and this are going to cancel each other off. So this is where I'm going to write my two equations. X minus 2 equals and x minus 2 equals. Now what it equals is whatever the square root of 16 is. Second square root 16 is equal to 4. So there's my positive 4 and here's my negative 4. Once you get this far, now you just solve. Let's add 2 to both sides. I'm going to end up with x equals 6. On the other side, or the other equation, I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I'm going to get x equals negative 4 plus 2 is a negative 2, which will be my answer. So now notice how I get two different answers, and they're not opposites of one another. They're not just like positive 3 and negative 3. Those are boring. That's why we're kind of amping up the difficulty as we go here. But I still get two answers. That's important. So here's problem number 9. So when you come over here to problem number 9, remember, let's get whatever's being squared alone. So we're going to divide by 5 on both sides. Those two cancel off. I'm going to be left with a minus 2 squared is equal to whatever 70 divided by 5 is, which is 14. Now, at this point, we want to take the square root of both sides. This and this are going to cancel each other off, and we're going to just be left with a minus 2 equals and a minus 2 equals. Now, this is where we need to be careful. The square root of 14 is 3.74. So we're going to make one of them with the positive version of that number. And the other one is going to be with the negative version of that number. Now to finish the problem, we are going to come over here and add 2 to both sides. These two cancel off. So I'm going to be left with a equals 3.74 plus 2, which is 5.74. That's one of my answers. On the other side, we added 2 to both sides. Negative 3.74 plus 2 is negative 1.74. And that will be our second answer, right? So we still follow pretty much the same process. It's just now when I square root both sides, I'm not done. I have a little bit more work to do. Looks like we got 2 problems left. Here's number 11. First, our goal is to get this all by itself. Now, in math, we've talked about this a lot. We know we got to get rid of the 7 first. So we're going to add 7 to both sides because that's what's going to undo it. And that's going to leave me with 2 times x plus 1 squared is equal to 19 plus 7 is 26. Now, to continue on, we want to come over here and divide off the 2. We're trying to get the part that's being squared alone. So that's going to give me x plus 1 squared is equal to 13. Now, once you've made it this far, you've done a really nice job, but we have a little bit further to go. Remember, to undo squaring something, we like to square root. Squaring and square root are inverse operations. They cancel each other out. So I'm going to be left with, this is where we got to be careful, x plus 1 equals, and x plus 1 equals. Now what it equals is the square root of 13. So let's do that math. Second square root of 13 is equal to let's call it 6.1. Because we can round, since that 5 is big, or since that 5 is equal to 5, we can round up the 0 to a 1. So there's the positive version of it, and here's the negative version of it. Now, from here, we just have a little bit more work. Let's subtract 1 from this one and this one. That's going to leave us with x equals 3.61 take away 1 would give us 2.61. And on the other side, take away 1, take away 1. I'm going to get x equals negative 3.61 take away 1 will be a negative 4.61. And that will be my final answer. Nice job. Let's do one more. Here it is. Last one for today. Now, in this problem, we want to get whatever's being squared alone. So we're going to start by taking 7 away from everything. It's going to leave me with a negative 3 times x minus 6 squared is equal to a negative 27. Now, once I get this far, we got to get rid of the negative 3. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. These two pieces cancel each other off. So I'm just going to be left with x minus 6 squared equals negative 27 divided by a negative 3 is a positive 9. Now, to wrap the problem up, we want to take the square root of both sides because we got what was ever being squared alone. Now we know this and this cancel each other off. So I'm going to get x minus 6 equals and x minus 6 equals. Now what it equals is the square root of 9. Second square root of 9, we find out that that's equal to 3. So one of these is positive 3 and the other one's going to be negative 3. Now we just finished solving. Add 6 to both sides, and I'm going to get x equals 9. On the other one, add 6 to both sides, and I'm going to get x equals negative 3 plus 6 is positive 3. Just like always, you guys are going to be responsible for the even number problems. And remember, normally these are tied pretty darn close to the problem across from it. So I hope that's helpful to you. If you have any questions though, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks guys, have a great day.